right now. Welcome everybody to Tuesday night at Sanctuary Online. Believe it or not, this is our 26th meeting of Sanctuary Online. Sharon, welcome, hon.
Hey, Chubby.
Hey,
Hello.
Sharon, hi.
Yep,
Hi.
tonight is October 27th, and we are here for our end of month monthly book club selection conversation. So hopefully you've all read the book, and especially if you haven't finished the book and you want to bail on the end, so there's no spoilers, let us know about that. Although, if you remember last month, at the end of tonight, we're going to actually ask you to make some options and choices for next month's book, and then we will record those and we will vote on those tonight, and so we'll know what we're reading in November. So I'm going to real quickly open up and say welcome to Sanctuary Online. It looks like most of you are familiar with us here, but if you would, we love it if you would enable your video. We want to see your faces. One of the very important pieces of our Sanctuary Online community is to be community and to get to know each other. So having your face up is helpful there. You can also make sure that you're in gallery view. Gallery view rather than speaker view will let you see everyone tonight, and because I think Cheryl's going to run a very didactic conversation. If you're only seeing one person speak at a time, that means you're in speaker view, and you can normally click up onto the top of your screen and choose gallery, and that way all the different boxes and the faces come up. Beyond that, if you wouldn't mind opening your chat box and give us your first and last name, your email, and how you connected with us at Sanctuary, maybe where you're calling in from tonight. We also want to make sure that you know, if you'd like to, we have a text feature, which we love. And so if you would like to be texted on Tuesday afternoons as a reminder for what's coming up on Sanctuary Online at night, you can put your cell phone number in the chat box, and Barb will grab that up and add you to our list. So it's been a big month here. We've had some Giving Tuesday work. Ken and Toby, last week we had Introduction to TDF Theory. So we want to thank again Tracy Klarsfeld and Bill, who were here and ran us through a really wild and interesting evening of TDF. We get enough response on that people would like to do more in January. So we will tee that up for the second quarter of next year. Tonight, though, it's all about the book club. So, Cheryl, I'm going to hand this over to you, and I'll take us down from our I'm so tired, folks. Sorry, I've been teaching all day on Zoom. I'm just out of brain power. So I'm going to stop sharing. And Cheryl, it is your night to just really enjoy and usher the folks through a conversation of our book. And then, like I said,
Hey.
What you'll notice in the chat, if you think of a book during tonight's conversation that you think would be a great book for us to do in November, then go ahead and type that into the chat box. And at the end of the night, we will put all those up. We're going to have 6 selections or up to 6 selections, and we'll do a wonderful vote via a poll, because we, yes, are getting fancy here at Sanctuary Online. So, Cheryl, they are all yours.
So please, as you're thinking of them, go ahead and stick them in there and put it in the chat, and then Joe will set it up for us to vote for at the end. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I want you to go down to your reactions right now and put a thumbs up if you read the book. This one. Yay, yay. Ellen, you already read it because you.
I know, I'm looking for the reactions. I can't
Reactions
find...
down at the bottom. It says share screen, record, reactions.
Oh yeah, duh.
Yeah,
Okay, I got a new one. Party hat, Cheryl.
Wait, here.
You
All
just
right.
put party hats. I don't.
The party hats. All right, yay. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, what did you all think of this book? Does anybody have any specifics that what you really like about it? Let's go with that first. Nobody liked it.
I did like it. I definitely liked it. I read it pretty quickly because I liked it.
Yeah.
Didn't want to put it down. I found myself like having a separate thought in the back of my mind where I was like, is she really an alien? And I was like, I don't think this genre would have her really be an alien. Like the genre doesn't make sense that she would be, but maybe she is.
Did anybody else think that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that same thought when I was reading, went back and forth. Nah, she's not an alien. She's got to be an alien. What else could she be? No, she's not an alien. It's like, yeah.
She was
Yeah.
definitely magico, making all those
Oh,
good
yeah.
things happen. So absolutely was magico. And I liked the hope there, with everything that she'd been through, to just, continue to have that positive, know that something good was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's funny because I felt like the author, in a way, kind of left it open, because at the beginning, she told Joe that she took over the girl's body when the girl died. And then
Yeah.
later, when she was telling the story about how she jumped out the window, and it says she jumped out the window, but she doesn't say what happened after that. Did she die when she fell out the window, or what? And
Mhm.
so you don't really know that for sure. I mean, the way the story sinks out, it seems like she's not an alien, but I'm not like you, Sharon. I'm like, well, she was magical. Maybe she really is, who knows? I don't know. It was kind of interesting.
I
She
felt
certainly
that
had a way
her,
about her. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenda.
I'm just going to say, I felt that her maturity for such a young girl said an awful lot about what she'd been through. We
Yeah.
didn't yet know what that was, but we knew it was
Mhm.
significant and life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet she was incredibly positive, right? About
Mhm.
everything that was going on. Yeah. Interesting.
It was definitely reminiscent of Where the Crawdads Sing
Yeah.
Yes, it was very
in a lot
reminiscent.
of ways. But so true confessions, I didn't finish the book. I got to read bits and pieces, but Mandy read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, if she read the whole thing, then I want her to answer my question.
What's that?
Why didn't that gentleman end up a foster parent?
They weren't married.
Well, whatever. I mean, the author was so
Whatever.
writing constantly about love, love, love. I like it all to end well and wrap up.
It was
But
going
there's
to.
more
It
to
just,
come.
yeah, it was
I
going
was
to.
so disappointed. I read the book twice because I was running through it rather fast the first time, thinking, and then the other night I realized, well, it's 4 nights till the book club, so I'll just go through it again. So and the idea of where did he get dropped off, I went back and went over that a couple times.
They just
Just
didn't
wrote him
plan a
out at
wedding
the
date
end.
yet.
Now, I love the thought that lesbians sold them their house and these 2 women are going to take over, but I like a love story that wraps up.
Yeah.
But there wasn't enough time for it to wrap up. If they would have wrapped it up and had them married in one big happy family, it was too short of a period of time, A lot
Yeah.
happened there, but
But
I
that's
think they
real
left
life,
it
and this is a
open.
book.
Exactly.
In a book, we
There
don't
was a
have to
whole,
worry
there's like a
about
whole,
this.
there's a whole nother story with, his life and the traumas that he had and what he'd done to protect himself. So just, I think, opening himself up to the idea of a relationship with those people was probably a really big step for him.
Well,
Yeah.
if you looked at this book as just a little bit of a manual on mental health, I mean, it was great. There were so many mental health challenges of all the different people, but the book always, to me, followed guidelines that I think a good mental health counselor would say, yeah, that's right. That's right.
What do you mean by that, Cynthia?
Well, in other words, you're all right. That's why he couldn't rush into marriage. He was just coming out of a cocoon.
Yeah.
He had been in total isolation, and one of my good friends has withdrawal and high anxiety. So I understand that people can just withdraw for months, years.
Sure.
And so and then Joe, look at her health challenges and her cancer and her mother, and I thought they explained all that pretty well, and then his sister with all her mental health problems, and then that couple that had had brought him to this earth with their struggles. I just felt that, so many times you read books and you think, oh dear, a counselor would never go for this, but not this book. It was I
what
would
I like-
recommended it to my local book club. We're going to read it in 2 months.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Edie?
I was going to say that what I liked about that range of people and what they chose to say, relationships are non-traditional, and you pick your family as much as you get born into your family. And the people you're born to, you're stuck with, but you can choose.
You mean what my mother used to say? Listen, we can pick our friends, but we're stuck with our relatives.
You can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, that's a different.
But there was a book I read long ago, and it was called The Future of Love, and it was about these kinds of relationships. A man and a woman marry, they have teenage kids, the man falls in love with the man next door. They end up a couple, but they stay next to the wife and kids so that they can still co-parent.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. That's very modern.
All of those non-traditional relationships, if Gabe and Joe and Ursa consider themselves a family unit of sorts, or they're a budding family unit.
Oh, I think they're a budding family unit for sure.
Yeah.
That was certainly non-traditionally. So she really covered the gamut of
Yes.
of various kinds of relationships, because we do kind of get stuck in, here's what, the 1950s model of a family, but people change over time. So Mandy was pointing out that she really liked the dialogue, especially between the three of them, that the dialogue was really well written, the banter between Dave and Joe and Ursa. Yeah.
And this was her first novel.
Yeah, that surprised me. That
Yeah.
surprised me.
Wasn't the one that we read last month, the Crawdad one, wasn't that was also that person's first novel?
Was it?
I think it was.
Huh.
I'll
Must
look
be
it up.
some good English teachers out there.
And yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you all find yourselves comparing the two books at all, or?
I
Little bit.
just said to myself, obviously, whoever's picking books likes nature.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
one of the-
I should have had the clue, shouldn't I?
yeah, there you go.
I told somebody tonight I was going on this Zoom, and they said, well, how do you know these people? I mean, and what do you mean they're in this wilderness? I said, you have to realize I met these guys when they lived in the city. And I said, you went over to their house in the winter. Here they were in a regular white frame house in Chicago, North Side. And Tom had created an ice skating rink in their backyard.
Of course.
And you were immediately offered a pair of skates and a scarf, and you just had to skate. I mean, that's just what you did, right? And every night he put a layer of water on that skating rink so that it would be always there.
Wow.
So, I have a history here that tells me we're going to go to nature. We go to these events.
There you go. I was telling Joe this, that this second story, it seemed like it really developed the characters real well.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it seemed like to me, everything fell together way too fast at the end. It was like, I almost expected it to be, I don't know. It just seemed like it was really fast. Anybody else?
Yeah, I felt exactly the
Mhm.
same way. All of a
Did you?
sudden, we went from very incredible curiosity to a cemetery with a whole bunch of information that didn't really build up to anything. And all of a sudden, oh, by the way, if you've read this far, let me just tell you what really happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And But I liked at the end, the foster parents were spoke about in the third person. So I didn't really know who those foster parents were until
I didn't
Joe
either.
ended up at the house
Yep.
with the other woman. That was a really tight, I thought that was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I also felt
I'm
like
halfway
it
through the
wrapped
book.
up in
I've
nice
only read
detail.
20 chapters and Carol read the whole thing, but I haven't.
Oh, you haven't finished reading it yet,
No,
Bonnie?
I didn't have a chance because Carol got it first and she read it first, but it's a fast read. But I'm only through 20 chapters, so
Oh.
I'm gonna.
And what were you going to say, Kristen? Then?
It almost feels like the last chapter or two was like an epilogue, like it jumped ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're like the main part of the story kind of wrapped up, and then like, and here's the happily ever after that comes later.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it was almost like
Have
we've
it.
got
Yeah.
350. I've got to get 350 pages to get this book published. Oh, I've got that much now. I'll just kind of put this all over there.
Is that really a rule?
It is
Sometimes,
kind of a
yeah.
rule. There are rules about how
Yeah.
many pages you need to have in particular kinds of book. I mean, I think it's different for fiction versus nonfiction, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And if you want to get paid,
That was her first book. I found this, but it's on there backwards.
Oh,
No, I
for
can
the
read
fir-
it.
For the
The first
crawdad thing, yeah, I read that one too. So
oh, the crawdads.
that was
Yeah.
her first also.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
I keep going back to the where the crawdads saying, I keep going back to that book, and I'm just totally taken by the way that thing evolved and what happened with her. So I'm still taken back by it. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
Did you feel that was a little more complicated than this book? I mean,
oh yeah.
in a positive way. The story
Yeah.
was developed. The murders and I mean, but this book was more melodic in a sense. It just continued joyfully along. You didn't.
Yeah. It was more melodic, and there wasn't really a whole lot of real scariness to it until towards the end, right? When
Yeah.
I did get, and I know some people said they didn't finish, and I don't want to give too much away, but I found myself pretty emotional when you did discover what she had gone through.
Yep.
And I because and I'm just
Yeah.
realizing it now that you've said it. I think in the in the Crawdads book, the trauma's up front, and then
Yes.
you're like going through it the whole time. And this book was very melodic, and even though obviously a little girl wandering into your yard and having no place to go is a bad thing, it didn't present it that way. And then all of a sudden you find out after you get to know her what a rough time she had. And I
Yeah,
did.
that one caught me unawares too.
Well,
The
you know,
interesting thing is, she was super intelligent. I mean, they had just so very, very bright, but yet she was still a child. With the crying, the breakdown, the running away, and things like that. So it was a fine balance of being, just having that super IQ, and yet still being very, very young and immature in many ways, and mature in other ways. So it was just a interesting dance of a character.
Yeah. Did anybody get the backwards words or the backwards names that she did before?
No.
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 Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. And part of it was because they weren't spelled the same way, like they threw extra letters in there. So
Mhm.
yes, you could
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
out, but it wasn't that obvious.
Yeah.
So
That almost sure makes you think that she was an alien because she was so smart. She wasn't like a
Mhm.
little girl.
right.
There was an extent she was definitely magical. I mean,
Yes.
because I felt like that she appeared just when just when that woman needed her, when
Joe,
she
yeah.
needed somebody to look out for her, and she just appeared for that. And then she was also appeared just at the right time for him.
For
And
Dave.
yeah, it was like, so maybe she's not an alien, but maybe she's a fairy
Yeah.
in the,
so that makes me think of the I haven't read the book, but I've seen a a piece on TV, and now it's a movie called The Secret. And The Secret is just expect that good things are going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like Ursa represents. She creates this layer of fiction to protect herself from the reality of her past.
Yeah.
But she can use the fiction to create the world she wants, whether it's through art, her drawing, or her own little reality that she creates. But to have seen so much negativity and then just say, how can I make the world different? Oh, I'm just going to write it different. I'm going to draw it different. I'm just going to force it to be different. You know, that's kind of like made me think of The Secret, if anybody's familiar with that.
Yeah.
I was also going to say to anybody who thinks it's strange for kids to just kind of show up, at Mandy's house in Wichita Falls, that's not at all strange. Because the circumstances of families and kids who literally get locked out of the house, or kids who just get lost in the drama of what's going on in the rest of the family, they would show up on her doorstep, and her daughter would bring them, and they would take them in as often as necessary or not.
Wow.
Wow.
And they called the parents and stuff, but
She showed up, I don't know, it was like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night on a weeknight. And she said that it was raining, and she was banging on the doors because she said a man was chasing her through the park. She was 11.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
but they know that Kennedy lives at their house, and they know that kids go to their house, and so kids will show up, whether they're friends of Kennedy's from school or.
well, there's no reason to lock the door. People aren't going to come in for bad reasons. They're going to come in for good reasons. So I don't know why they had locks on the door. We had locks on the door, but
Yeah.
it was a revolving door, it seemed like.
So it's not a stretch for a kid to show up.
Hmm.
Especially if they're fleeing pretty trying circumstances.
Yes.
Yep.
One of the other things that struck me as similar between these last two books is how people sort of snub the formal welfare and help systems that we have in place. And so in Crawdads, the truant officer and the welfare lady, and they're like, no, and even the church ladies, she's like they're going to do her more harm than good. And then again, you have in this book, they have, very serious adult conversations about knowing that they're supposed to call the police, knowing that they should have put the child in foster care, but discussing that they really don't think that that'll be best for her. And they make like a conscious decision to really break the law.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of sad, we've got these social networks to try to help people, but I think maybe more often than not, people are more afraid of them for, whatever reasons. There's probably some truth to that. But yeah.
What was a little bit troubling though was with the one foster family that they had her meet, just how she pushed them away, and it was kind of like, the things she said was so intense. It's like, oh my God, for,
I was going,
you have this. One of the things that I kind of think about sometimes too is the people that they bring in as the smaller characters, and you kind of wonder why. So like when you think about the person that they brought in as her former boyfriend, it's like I don't know. I mean, I could see where that tied into the story and Joe's character and everything else, but I didn't know if it was really necessary for that, and so I kind of wonder what goes through the author's mind when they bring in somebody who has a role like that.
What else? Who else thought something about the boyfriend or what that purpose was to have him in there?
Well, you're talking about Tanner.
Yeah.
Yes.
So his behavior echoed the behavior of the sheriff that did come by, because the writing said something about he stared at her chest for a few seconds, and she knew he was not going to find anything more interesting there than, I can't remember. Anyway, it was just real typical. Just so the sheriff who's looking at her chest, and I can't tell the way she was writing, did he find it odd that she was flat chested, or was that his characteristic? He always, as soon as he sees a female, he goes down to the, like, my eyes are up here, get up here. So was it a comment on men so typically check out a woman's breast before they even make eye contact? Or did she present in an unusual way because she had this double mastectomy? And then Tanner, is all about reconstructive surgery. Oh, you can have better ones than you used to have. Like, is that, so I assume that they appeared closely together because it was a statement about how men see women, and obviously Gabe was going to be different.
I think it reflected her own image of herself, though, too, that, like, for one thing, that when she made that comment about the sheriff, I took it as like her inner voice, because he didn't know her before. So how would he know that she,
Right.
used to have boobs? And then to bring like the former boyfriend in, very similar to what you said, but like to compare the fact that like this was somebody who she had like a not so deep relationship. So probably a pretty physical, or maybe she thought it was deeper and it turned out not to be, right? But that was like a superficial relationship, and he turned out to be just as superficial later on as well too. So he, if like with the sheriff, I was like, oh, is she just projecting that? But then when he came around, he flat out said it, like, oh, we can get better ones now, like as if that was the thing that would really matter.
It was kind of a case of, what do you say? The harder you try to say something to somebody to make them feel better, the deeper a hole you're going to dig. Oh, you can get them better than they were before. Well,
yeah.
I have as many friends who want breast reductions as there are people who want breast enhancement.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that was, maybe the author was making a statement about the challenge of breast cancer from her close personal experience, and that connection between breast cancer and identity and female identity. And I don't know. So it might have been, I guess the next question is, what role did it play in the big picture? Would she have just been an interesting character without having suffered that particular challenge?
I think that played into who she was and her psyche, though. It's like, I think it, I don't think that it would have been the same story if she hadn't had those challenges.
Yeah, I agree. I think every character carried a thread of hurt and pain.
Yes.
And together they were supportive of the other. And I think that the child's need to create storylines and to create characters and to create, I mean, we all know the story of abuse and how many times you've known abuse situations where people have created alternate realities. And I think that was a big part of the author's intent in this book for a lot of the characters.
Carol, do you have any comments?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, since you read it, the whole thing.
Yep.
No? Any thoughts about this whole situation with Tanner coming in, or what he's meant to be, or?
I think that you needed Tanner in order to enrich her personality. You needed the background of who she was, and she was with Tanner, and then he rejected her because of mastectomy. So in order to develop a character, you have to have background, you have to know somewhat the history.
Yeah. Well, that's a possibility too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
Good. Thank you.
I'm curious people think of her best girlfriend, because we don't really know what she was like before all her trauma, and yet she
Oh, yeah.
kind of fling with Tanner, and she's got this best girlfriend who's like wild child. That seemed like, I don't know, I was trying to figure out what that maybe meant about her like before, or if it was just an opposites attract kind of thing, or
Yeah, I wondered about that too, Kristen. It was kind of interesting that someone as stoic almost as she was, or has hardworking and so on, had this roommate and this best friend that was just such a whack job, and it was really interesting to me to see the two of them together.
But she was so authentic, and that's the thing. Tabby was so authentic, and I
Yeah.
think that's what Joe appreciated. It's like what you see is what you get, there's no pretense. It's just, this is me with my purple hair and, just wild personality. And it was great.
Yeah.
I thought she was great, quite honestly.
Me too.
And it might be exactly why Ursa was so attracted to her. Was because she felt that genuineness, that authenticity, right? So
she was
And no
probably from
judgment.
another planet.
yeah, exactly.
I was going to say the alien in one saw the alien in the other.
Exactly.
we all need a friend who will make us go buy a house.
She didn't have any trouble getting accepted as a foster parent. That seemed weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly had an unorthodox lifestyle.
Yeah, that goes to the skipping a big part of the story thing, right?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting how that kind of played out, wasn't it? 'Cause that's what I mean by kind of at the end, you're like,
Yes.
it missed some threads, didn't quite.
Yeah.
I didn't get all the dots connected there at the end,
Just
Some
get
of that
swept
seems
along.
reality, because in the care system of children, I've noticed if you have money, which Joe was providing the money from her inheritance, you can get kids much easier than if you don't have money.
right?
So that was realistic, really, in a way. Maybe Tabby didn't have much money, but she was going to vet school, so she must have had a little money.
Well, and I mean, if you wanted to make it work, older children are hard to place, than infants.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so I have no idea about the foster care system and what they even look at. And sometimes you see where foster kids are and it makes you kind of wonder. But I suppose I could see it work. The Tabby thing, we all have an alter ego. Like we have that crazy friend that wears purple. Pam, I'm talking about
Ellen.
Ellen is that crazy friend. When I was in college, there was Joe, the Marine, but I had this crazy hippie friend Helene, who was from Australia, who was like the opposite. I had my hippie friends. I know Joe had her hippie friends too.
Absolutely. I'll always remember when Sharon's one of those my college roommates actually. But Sharon was a NROTC graduate, and I'll never forget, my roommates came out to one of our, graduation events, and Amy, Sharon had a pin on her jacket with a line over, a gun and a line over it, like no handguns. Now this was back in the day. So that was pretty radical back in the day. But here she is at a military graduation ceremony. I'm like, yeah, these are my friends. This is my family. Get over it.
And Joe, I still have Sarah's question authority buttons that she, to remember those.
Yep, I hang with a rough crowd. And you know what? The beautiful thing about that, in a day that we could have that many differences of opinions and still be family and get along, it's a passing day possibly of that kind of diversity with folks you really love and you really stay attached to.
And have it last 40 years.
40 years. We still Zoom on Sunday night, once a month.
That's pretty amazing. And maybe that's exactly what Tabby and Joe had in common, you know, was that they were so different, and yet that they drew from each other, right? And could appreciate each other's differences and love each other anyway, you know.
And compliment them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and you know, that kind of love is messier, and it's more difficult. You know, I would always say it's more rewarding. You know, when people in ministry, folks have always said, you know, there are certain people that require more attention. I think in the South we call them EGR, extra grace required, right? And it's a polite way to say someone's, you know, sometimes a pain. But I often found, you know, to me, people who are high maintenance are almost always worth it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and yet you've got to make those decisions regarding your own bandwidth of how much attention or time you give to someone that, you know, may have different boundaries than you, or what's the purpose of the conversation per se. But harder work, better work, rewarding work in my mind.
They have so much to give.
And, you know, and Glenda, sometimes because they may not have social etiquettes or social understandings, they don't have as many places to give it,
Yep.
right? Because
Yep.
folks won't tolerate or won't accept or won't love and won't be open to that. And
Don't
so,
have time. We don't have time.
yeah, when you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that was something that happened to Joe? Is that she really didn't have time for this little girl to come in there, and yet somehow she was very taken by her, you know? Interesting, because she should have just called the police. The type of person she was, that would have been the first thing she would have done, you know?
But she did, and it was such a negative reaction,
Yeah.
you know?
And the child made it very clear what would happen if she did call the authorities, because the child knew what they would do to her, and running away into the bush was less painful than being sucked back into that vortex that she had left.
Yeah.
Which is grace.
Yeah, but there was something about Joe that almost needed Ursa in her life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, one could say it replaced something, couldn't one? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just like we were talking about people choosing their family or choosing their relationship, call the police and they'll call Child Protective Services and everything will be fine. That's like the textbook answer, right? That's like Donald Trump saying, oh yeah, these children who are separated from their families are being very well taken care of.
Right.
Like they all have suites at Trump Towers. But you know, she knows from experience the difference. So the textbook is call the police, which she did, right? And then she got the pushback from the sheriff, and like as if they eventually they always go home. Don't worry about it, you know.
Yeah, when he said about the fostering, he's like,
Yeah.
he wants his child to go into fostering.
Yeah, because then if somebody gets, believe it or not, people foster children just for the money, you know, blah blah blah. But, I mean, she just kind of laid out a little bit of reality, but just like the girl in where the crawdads sing, they both knew the woods. They're both slippery. They were both gonna, you know, do their own thing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting tie. They both knew how to get away from whatever it is they needed to get away from to protect themselves, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, which is interesting to me because I was always that well-behaved goody two-shoes kid. You know, I was always going to authority, you know, but so I like their personalities for that independence. And we always got that with like the boys, like we got that with Huckleberry Finn, and you know, we would get that with the boy characters. We've had a shortage of girl characters doing that, so it's nice to read these.
It's true.
Yeah.
I love the way that she kind of mellowed out Little Bear as well, you know, because for Little Bear being so aggressive, you know, before, and then just really, you know, the calmness he had around, you know, Ursa, and, you know, it was just amazing. I really like that.
Did parent her in that sense with like
Mhm.
rules and conditions and okay, we'll do this first and then you can do that and you can't do that unless you do this. And
Yeah, eat the broccoli first before you can have the marshmallows,
well,
right?
I have to say, if I was gonna pretend to be from an alien planet, I would also say that eating greens was bad. So if there's, you know, a good rule on that one. That was one
I
of the
would disagree. I would so disagree. Greens are good.
Oh. Oh. Well, are there any other comments you guys want to make or any other ideas you want to bring up about this book before we start thinking about the next one?
I would just say thank you for choosing it. It was worth it.
That was Ellen's choice, I believe, right?
Ellen, this was yours last
It
week.
was my recommendation. I loved
Yeah,
the book.
yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, it was an excellent book. Yeah, thank you, Ellen. We appreciate it. We'll give Ellen some love. Yay! Way to go, Ellen. Good job. Well, Joe, did you capture some books in there for us to take a look at?
I am going to do this. I'm going to go into my chat, my friends, and the way we did this last month was kind of fun, where a person got to kind of I'm going to put all the books. If you have a book right now that you think would be great for next month and for November, and you haven't put it in the chat,
All the light we can.
It's going to show.
go ahead. And I'll add these two. Kelly, these two were given to us ahead of time. So at this point, and there was one more, I think, Bonnie and Carol, all the light we
Yeah,
cannot.
all the light we cannot see. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put them all in a row down here.
And Linda, you did 2 spirits. That's good. You know, I was thinking about that before too.
I'll write that one down.
Oh, I read that was a great book.
Yeah.
Who was that by?
Not the 40s, wasn't it?
That was a good book, especially following those gender lectures.
Yeah.
Toby Johnson, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's Edie. That has to be Edie. Edie and I also went to college together.
Why? What?
Leadership in Turbulent Times by Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Oh, come on.
She's a bit of a geek. She's a little bit of a intellectual. Yeah,
got it right there too.
you probably got that one. Then the one from Abraham Lincoln, also by Doris. If you can read a book that weighs 7 pounds, you can read a book by Doris Kearns Goodwin. She's brilliant, though. My goodness, I love her. Okay, so let me. Yep, Team of Rivals.
Yeah, because everybody has to tell us a little bit about these books.
Yeah, so let me try and run this a little more diplomatically than we ran last time, because we could do another whole hour just on arguing about what we're going to do in November. So why don't we start out, Kelly? Actually, these first 2 came from Kelly, and one. Let me see. We've got a whole bunch of. We have maybe too many for my poll here. So Kelly, if you had to pick one of these 2. The Dressmaker or Hillbilly Elegy, is it, Kelly?
I have not read that other one, the Hillbilly one. It just came up when I was pulling up the one to tell Cheryl about it.
Okay.
But I loved the Dressmaker one.
So do your pitch of why it would be a fabulous read for us in November, and you have just about a 90-second pitch.
Well, I can't say it's related to November, but it's about a girl who's in Afghanistan when the Taliban comes and takes over, and she and her sister are actually at college when that happens. And all of a sudden, they're not allowed to leave their home. It's a true story. They're not allowed to leave their home, and they have to wear burqas, and they have all these rules and everything, and it's how they responded to that life. She actually became, her brother and her father got taken away or something to go fight the war. And so she started a dressmaker thing, and I think it had to be undercover when they were doing it. And they became seamstresses to support themselves.
So Kelly, have you already read this one? You've already read this one and finished it, or you started it, or?
Yes, I read it quite a long time ago. I'd love to read it again, but it was so just interesting to me. I've always I tell everybody about it, and no one else seems interested. So don't hurt my feelings.
So Kelly, the thing is, they were in a more of a modern society, and all of a sudden, that it was switched for them when the religious folks came in and took over, basically.
And actually, it was the Taliban, because I reread the summary of it. It was
Sounds like The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, okay,
sort of.
Kristen, why don't you give us 90 seconds on when we were mermaids?
Okay, so it's actually when we believed in mermaids, because I tried to type too quickly.
Autocorrect.
Yeah, it's when we believed in mermaids. It's a story of sisters told a lot in flashbacks. So mostly from one sister's point of view, and rough life, challenges with their parents, but they're not little kids. So different than the stories we read so far, because she's an adult and there's flashbacks to their unusual childhood. But it does kind of, I read it a few months ago and it came to my mind because it does sort of encapsulate this theme we seem to have recently of, almost creating a little fantasy world for yourself and not, and in this case, only as an adult, even understanding her own trauma or that she'd even been traumatized. So I thought it was a good book. It's a fairly easy read, not too heavy, even though it deals with some pretty heavy topics.
Now, is that the first book she's ever written? Because that's
Wait, hold on.
That's the theme.
We're having good luck with it so far, right, Ellen?
Good one, Ellen.
Can you say it easy? So anything that's the exact opposite of Edie's suggestions. I'm just.
Emotional tale of two sisters, an ocean of lies, and a search for the truth. And there's a mystery aspect.
Mystery aspect. Okay, and Edie, I love you. You know this, okay? And so, Carolyn, Bonnie, why don't you give us a 90-second pitch for All the Light We Cannot See?
It's another World War II book, but the range, the aspects are entirely different. It follows from 1939 to, I think, 1945.
4 or 5, yeah.
And it follows 3 different characters, where they are, who they are, how they react to what's happening in Germany. One is in Germany, one is, or 2 are in France. And I haven't finished it, so I can't say.
I have.
So far,
I won't tell
it's
the end, though.
wonderful.
Yeah, and it's so well written. I mean, you know, you think how many more, because we watched a lot of stuff on PBS during the pandemic. What do? We're watching World War II things on PBS constantly. But this is so well written, and it has so much detail of your daily life and what is happening to your society and your world, and kind of like if someone took what's going on now with the pandemic and how everything is flipped. I was only just born in the middle of that whole thing, so I didn't have any personal experience of it. I was too young, but but it really gets down to detail of how it affected every part of your life. It's really well written. I mean, I can hardly put it down.
I've read that. Has anybody else read it?
No. And it's 3 different perspectives, so 3 different people, basically, that you're following.
Yeah.
And it follows them from 1939 onward.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal read.
What country is it set in?
Mostly France.
Yeah.
So that'd be a departure. Does it have nature in it? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Now, wait a minute.
It does. It has
Yes.
ocean.
Okay, oceans are good. We like oceans.
Crossing the ocean.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. And Two Spirits, Glenda, you put that one up. We have, again, for many of you who've been a part of our community for the last little while, we've done a couple interviews with the author, Toby Johnson, where Ken has interviewed Toby on Two Spirits. Glenda, give us your 90-second pitch there, my friend.
I don't think I've got 90 seconds worth, but I was on the I was on the Zoom call with Toby and I heard him, and what was the other gentleman's name that was interviewing Toby?
Ken Martin.
Ken Martin, yeah. And I heard Ken, I heard the two of them speaking to this book. So I immediately put it on my list of things to read, and I haven't yet read it. It's the one after the one I'm reading right now. So I would set the current one aside if we were going to do this one.
I love a woman who has a list.
Can I ask a question though? Because I was Googling all these books while to kind of see them.
Are you like a
And-
fact checker, Ellen, on the side?
Yeah. I was
I
like,
don't have to debate. Ellen's fact checking my books. Okay.
so which one is it? Because there's two spirit people and there's two spirit, a story of a life, something, a two spirit journey.
It's by Tony.
Becoming two spirits.
Toby Johnson. It's Two
Johnson.
Spirits
You put in.
by Toby Johnson.
Yeah. Cheryl, I've got a word or two. This novel is more than just an exciting story of Native Americans in the Civil War era. Drawing upon the Diné philosophy, it presents a positive way to approach life. It calls for acknowledging and respecting the important role that eroticism plays in a person's existence. It provides a sense of humanity in its recognition that people who would today be identified as transgendered or gay were always part of the Diné way of life.
Well, I have read it.
Did you find it now, Ellen?
I did.
Okay.
I have read it. It was a wonderful, interesting book. It's a historical novel, meaning that when they talk about generals and what they were doing, and there's graft and corruption in there, it's all real. And that was amazing to me, but it's all stuff that happened.
Yeah.
If I had one thing I'd want to say about it that I kept thinking as I'm reading it, there's a lot of male sexuality in there, a lot of open, very sensual male sexuality. My own little hometown book club, which is mostly lesbian, but still, I don't know if they're going to go for that book. But they've already said they want to read it. So, but it's very historically correct, and I love that part of it. I didn't know anything about how I knew that our native peoples were not treated properly, but it shows how their things were stolen from them. People were killed. This is all about New Mexico, by the way.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. I don't know if this is the right time around the holidays to read it or not, but it's an interesting book.
Yeah, and that one is, so Ellen, Two Spirits, a story of life with the Navajo. And that's really, I appreciate you lifting it up, Cynthia. That's Toby's, I think, intersection of his research is with Native people's cultures and history. And so how that's woven through from his perspective, obviously, as a gay male. Yeah. Yep. And then so Edie, if you had one to choose, if your leadership in turbulent times or Team of Rivals, were you putting that up or were you and Barb just chatting on the side there?
But Barb, I am actually reading Team of Rivals, but I wouldn't recommend that one for book club unless it's a super nerd book club. Like Barb and I are super nerds.
Yeah, I was gonna say you nerds need to have your own book club.
We're nerd colonels or nerd generals or something.
Love it.
I agree.
But
I might join you.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll sign up for your nerd book club too.
Okay.
It'll be on Wednesday night.
What's cool about leadership in turbulent times? Look, it's not very thick for a Doris Kearns Goodwin, and it's kind of brings Civil War and World War II. But so these four presidents, Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, and LBJ, are the ones that Doris Kearns Goodwin is a scholar on. But she went back and she looked at all of them through the lens of leadership, and they all contrast highly. So it's really, it's really an interesting, just if you like history, general read, like Mandy and I were sitting here saying that Carol and Bonnie, we like Carol and Bonnie's recommendation, All the Light We Cannot See, because of its sort of World War II retrospective thing. But yeah, I'm going through a history phase in my nerdhood. So, and I really want to read Two Spirits, but I know it's really going to make me sad about what we just knowing what we have done to the native populations.
Yes.
I really want to read it, but maybe that observation that it's a post-holidays read is,
Yeah,
is
that's
a
okay.
good one.
Yeah.
But I like all of these. I also like the idea of the dressmaker because, you know, Trump just surrendered to the Taliban, and we forget that the Taliban are the ones that started this whole mess. And women were lawyers and professors and professional women before the Taliban. And somehow that women in Afghanistan were seeking suffrage at the same time that women in the United States were seeking suffrage. And there's this whole history. Everybody thinks there's this, oh, it's cultural that they oppress their women. Oh, bullshit. Oh, sorry. Anyway.
Well, let's do this, my friends. I want to honor our time. It's just coming under the
No,
top of the hour. Go ahead, Edie. Go ahead, Edie.
We read anything anybody wants to read.
Well, we're gonna vote differently tonight. So I have an option for you. I have a poll, and if you remember, if you were here last month, we started voting, and then you voted more than once, and then it got crazy. So and then we just picked Ellen's because we did. So it was the right thing to do. You know, like, yeah, that one.
It was a good choice.
It was a good choice. And then I ended the call because we were spiraling into chaos, you know, and there's enough of that in the world right now. So I have set up two different polls, one where you get one vote each, okay? And one where you get 3 votes each. So a little more fun on the second one. I'm all about the fun, right?
Can you divide your vote?
Pardon?
Can you divide your vote?
You,
So, Joby, do we have to vote on which way we want to vote first or what?
no, I just wondered if you
I
want.
was thinking about
fun and
poor
chaos.
Carol and Bonnie and Mandy and Edie that only get 1 vote. So I go with the 3 vote one because
Okay,
they can fight it out and have 1 together.
1.5 together. You get 1, I get 1, and we get 1. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. If you're only gonna come with the 1 screen, that's what happens when the voting happens. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna open the poll, and I'm going to see where it says 1 vote. I'm gonna take us down to each person gets 3 votes, and the unfortunate thing is I can't do a poll during the session, so you have to. I'm gonna call out the names, the numbers. And let me do this. Can you see anything yet? Can you?
No.
Here you
Not
go.
yet.
Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll right now. Don't vote anything, okay? You can see it now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it says untitled option 1, 2. option
Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna do these in order, one time all the way through, and then I'll call each one out and you can make your votes, okay? Each person or each square on the Zoom tonight gets 3 votes, okay? So this is multiple choice, as you can see it there. So Mandy, Needy, and Carol and Bonnie, you guys have to you gotta figure it out. But you have,
Okay.
so the first option, there's gonna be 5 options. The first option is going to be dressmaker of Kahana.
Okay.
Okay, that'll be number 1. That'll be the first option. Option number 2 is gonna be When We Believed in Mermaids. So Kristen's book, okay? Option 3 is gonna be All the Light We Cannot See, the World War II, 3 characters, 1939, 1945. Option number 4 is gonna be Two Spirits, which again, may not be a holiday read, but up to you, you're voting. And then number 5 is gonna be Leadership in Turbulent Times. So I'm gonna read those out again one more time and you can vote as you go. Cheryl, you got a comment?
Okay, wait a minute, but you've got 6 options.
I
Yeah,
know.
but there's only 5 books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ellen, we had to build the
Vote for
poll.
number 6.
We need a 6th book. I can't stand it. No.
Either that, or if number 6 wins, Ellen, we'll just all read a book and come on next month and talk about our books. Okay, so
Oh yeah, we'll do a show and tell. Yeah.
okay, so go ahead and as I'm going to read through the 5 options again in the same order, you can choose them as I go if you like. Number 1, option 1, untitled option 1 is Dressmaker, the Two Sisters. Number 2 is When We Believed in Mermaids, again a story of sisters. Number 3 is All the Light We Cannot See. That's a World War II, 3 characters. Number 4 is Two Spirits. a
And
story with the Navajo.
Barb's putting these in the chat, by the way.
This Barb's the best.
Barb.
Yay, Barb.
Why didn't I think of this earlier? You know, I'm punked. Sorry, I taught for 6 hours on Zoom today, my friend. So.
He's a big T.
And thank you, Barb. Number 5, yep, Barb, is Leadership in Turbulent Times. God bless you. We learned how to use our TDF patterns, didn't we? I've got a little tiny T, and it's when you're tired or hungry or stressed, your little lens goes away.
Can we submit now?
If you've all voted, you can go ahead and submit. Sure, as you go.
No, wait a minute. Where do we submit?
It should be
Move
on the
it side, move
bottom
the
of the
thing
poll.
sideways on the window, right at the bottom.
on the bottom of your box there, Cynthia. So at the bottom.
3.
So once you've made your up to 3 selections, then you hit submit. And I have 66% of you voting so far, 75% of you voting so far.
Anonymous.
It's anonymous, totally. I can't do anything, guys. It's totally anonymous. But I am missing 2 people. Cheryl, have you voted?
Yes.
11 of you have voted. That means I haven't. That's cool. Okay, ready? I don't want to be held accountable here. I'm just the facilitator. I'm the host, man.
You're
Okay.
voting for number 6, right?
Yeah, I'll vote once for 6, Ellen. Sure. Actually, the host can't vote. It's kind of funny. I don't have an option to vote. I'm going to end the poll and then show you the results. Okay. Oh my God. Of course. So if I share the results, we have a tie. Of course we do.
Yay.
How can we have a tie when, for crying out loud, you each got 3 choices? So
I put all my votes on one.
that's okay. You can do that.
Why don't you ask one of the nerds to explain the data?
Okay, hold on. Yeah, no. What's beautiful? Hold on. I've got another poll built to break the tie. Okay, so now it's like in The Voice. I think you only have 2 choices. Okay, in this next poll, you can only vote for option 1, which is dressmaker, and you can only vote for option 3, which is All the Light We Cannot See. Okay,
Okay.
are you clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Are
One
there
or
any
3.
questions?
1 or 3.
1 or 3. So hold on a second. Don't do anything. Okay, so on this one, you should see 6 book choices again. You're only gonna choose between book choice 1 and book choice 2. Book choice 1, you get 1 vote, by the way, sorry. So those of you that are couples have to decide. This time you only get 1 vote, and you're voting either for book choice number 1 will be dressmaker. And let's go ahead and use number 3 just for the heck of it.
I was gonna say,
Book choice number 2,
you're a,
All the Light We Cannot See, the World War II suggestion from Bonnie and Carol.
can't
So that's
change
going to
the
be number
crowd.
2.
Yep. Number
Okay.
1 is dressmaker. Number 2 is the World War II, and someone chose number 3.
That was me because you're changing the ballots. You're dangerous.
Yeah. So if it's 2 or 3, it's one of those other ones. Yeah.
She used to be All the Light We Cannot See, so just count hers as 2.
All right, I'm starting over. I love you guys, but I'm taking over this poll. All right. Okay. It just isn't that hard, people. Kristen, anyway.
Screwed with the ballot.
Okay, so here, no, get your fingers off the button, folks. Ready? Here's the deal. Option 1. Option 1. Yeah, I want to see those hands. Thank you, Eric. Good job, Kristen. And that little dog behind you can't vote either, Eric. Okay, so option 1. It's called book choice number 1 is going to be the dressmaker, the 2 sisters, the Taliban. Okay, you got that? Yes, do this for me. We'll make your head do this. Okay. Now, book choice number 2. Look at this. Everybody do this. Book choice 2. Put 2 fingers up. Okay, book choice number 2 is All the Light We Cannot See. It's a World War II story. Get it? All right.
Got it.
Each box has 1 vote. Go ahead and vote. and then submit your choices. You people are way more challenging than you should be.
But we're worth it. We're all worth it. You said that.
I did, high maintenance, and I love you. Okay, all the votes are
The
in,
ballot.
and someone still voted for number 6. Mandy? Was that- Okay, other than that, it's my wife. Are you ready? Can I get a drum roll? Come on, can I get a drum roll?
Drum roll.
Oh, you guys really suck at the drum roll. Yeah, all right. Sharing the results, we are reading All the Light We Cannot See.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Okay,
Yay.
yay.
On my book list forever.
Really?
Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
All right, my
Cool.
friends, I'm gonna stop sharing.
I'm so excited.
Okay,
Oh.
wait a minute. Wait just a minute. It says this tile is not currently available for purchase.
Oh my God, seriously?
Where are you
I'm
looking?
looking on Amazon. Maybe it's, yeah, no, it says this is not currently available for purchase. Wait, why did,
Bought it at
okay,
Target. Yeah, we bought it at Target.
Everything's for sale on Amazon.
okay. Yeah.
I thought I saw it a second ago.
Yeah, it changed when I did something. I'm
It
like,
takes a
that's
while. The Two
Yeah.
Spirits did the same thing when I bought it on my Kindle. It just
Did
takes
it?
a while.
All the,
I'm excited. Thank you, Carol and Bonnie.
It is available on Kindle right now.
I would never have
Yeah.
found such a book. I just love those books.
weird.
Cool.
Look at that. Oh, look at that. A title slide built in real time. November 24th. Mark your calendars.
And who's the author?
Anthony Dewar.
Anthony Dewar. Got it.
Deorr.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. Yay.
Wow.
Yay.
So good.
And thank you so much for everybody coming. And always remember to come prepared to share a book for the next time too. So that's awesome.
So let me, I'm not letting you off that easy, folks. Okay, so thank you to Cheryl. Can we get a round of applause for Cheryl there?
Yay.
Guiding us through again. And this is something incredibly exciting for us to talk about really quickly is our November and December lineup, friends. Again, next week, Tuesday, we are not going to be here. So we are calling on it as a National Day of Prayer. Please, as voting changes and rules state by state change, if you or you know of anybody who has not voted yet, dear God, help them, right? Help people get to the polls.
Vote early,
Vote
please.
early, vote often. I mean, no, vote early.
Vote early.
And I'm assuming most of you here have already voted. If you know of other people who might need help getting to the polls, anything like that at all, reach out, right? Reach out.
Save the world, you guys. Save the world.
Save the world.
Yes.
We need the world needs some saving. Secondarily, on the 10th of the next Tuesday, obviously we think it's a great time to talk about change, no matter which change that is, like if you're leaving the country, change, or if the country is changing. Lily Brock, we've had Lily on here before as part of the change cycle, and she will be wonderful. And she's really going to just work again with our brain physiology and how just the changes that we're going through and how we might deal with them. So then on the 17th, we're going to introduce CLM. We are trying as an initiative to take Creating a Life That Matters. I know there's a few graduates on here, online, which will be a massive endeavor. And many of you might know Cheryl and I and Ken, along with a few others, wrote a 18-week curriculum, adult education curriculum that's part of MCC's leadership curriculum. And we're going to try and take it to 18 two-hour sessions, Kristen. I think you'd love this. Pretty deep, a very conversational more than teach, but we're trying to take that online and we have to redesign it, in its entirety to try and get it down to 90-minute sessions. And anyway, we're excited. So we're going to talk about that. And then the 24th, right there will be our book club. And my friends, we have the coolest Advent series you can imagine. And what we're going to do is all of December will be devoted to this Advent series. And so on the first, let me see this if I can do this from memory. Each week, we're going to have a family. I think Edie, Mandy, and your kids are 1 week, right? Where you're going to do a little tiny 5 to 10 minute candle lighting liturgy. So we'll have the wreaths and light our candles. So everyone will be encouraged to light their own candle. Then we're going to have about a 10-minute teaching segment from Ken on, you know, in Advent, the themes are love, joy, hope, and peace. And Ken is going to take the theme of that week and talk about how the major world religions practice that belief. Okay, kind of cool. Then we're going to have 30 minutes of fun, and we're going to talk about either favorite recipes or favorite Christmas rituals that your family, holiday rituals in your family, things like that. So kind of a conversational piece. And then we're going to end with a live solo piece of music. So probably someone singing a song that's also thematically connected. So we're really excited about that. We want you to invite all of your friends. That'll be every Tuesday night in December. And then we'll take the 29th off again. So goodness gracious, God bless you. Thank you for coming.
Before they all
Thank
go.
you for voting.
Yes.
Thank you for coming, you guys. And
Thank you,
for
Joe. Thank you,
Thank
Cheryl.
you.
and having
Thank you,
fun with
Cheryl,
it.
for doing this.
Bye-bye.
Love you all.
Love you.
Bye.
Help people vote next week. Help
All
vote.
right.
I'm gonna go watch the ball game now. Bye.
There you go.
Bye.
Go.
Wow.